Nathaniel Walker's hands moved with practiced precision as he manipulated the molecular synthesizer behind the counter of the Stellar Prism, the most exclusive bar in New Singapore's orbital station. His latest creation, a swirling cobalt mixture that seemed to dance with its own inner light, was unlike anything ever served in human or alien establishments. The cocktail didn't just taste exceptional, it defied the laws of conventional mixology. Through years of experimenting with hybrid molecular gastronomy and quantum stabilization, Nathaniel had discovered a way to create drinks that existed in multiple flavor states simultaneously. Each sip was unique, a kaleidoscope of tastes that adapted to the drinker's biochemistry. Another masterpiece, Mr. Walker? The low, melodious voice pulled his attention from the drink. Ambassador Verena stood at his counter, her crystalline skin refracting the bar's ambient lighting into subtle rainbow patterns. The Lasarian diplomat had become a regular over the past month, though she never ordered anything. Just an experiment, Nathaniel replied, trying to mask his surprise at her sudden appearance. Lysarians rarely ventured into human establishments, their strict cultural protocols usually keeping them isolated in their own sections of the station. Verena's faceted eyes studied the shifting liquid. The quantum variance in that mixture, it's remarkably similar to our sacred essence of understanding. A coincidence, surely? Nathaniel felt a chill run down his spine. He'd based his technique on scattered references to Lasarian ceremonial drinks in scientific journals, but such knowledge was supposed to be impossible for outsiders to access. Perhaps you'd like to try it, he offered, hoping to deflect her scrutiny. To his shock, she nodded. I believe I would. She settled onto one of the floating chairs, her crystalline form catching the light. Though I suspect we both know this is more than just a drink. As she raised the glass to her lips, the liquid began to resonate, its blue glow intensifying. The other patrons fell silent, sensing something momentous was occurring. Verena took a single sip, and her crystalline form briefly pulsed with the same cobalt radiance as the cocktail. Extraordinary, she whispered. You've done what our scholars thought impossible, created a bridge between organic and crystalline consciousness. Do you understand what you've accomplished? Before Nathaniel could respond, the bar's security systems flashed red. A squad of Lasarian royal guards materialized at the entrance, their crystalline armor glowing with barely contained energy. Ambassador, you must come with us immediately, their leader commanded. The High Council has detected an unauthorized consciousness resonance. Verena stood smoothly, seemingly unsurprised by their arrival. Mr. Walker will be accompanying us as well. I will? Nathaniel's hand instinctively moved toward the emergency beacon under the counter. Yes, Verena's voice carried an edge of urgency. Because in about 30 seconds, certain parties who monitor quantum anomalies will realize what that drink represents. And then neither the Royal Guard or your station security will be able to protect you. As if on cue, the station's warning klaxons began to sound. Multiple ships were breaking from their designated approach vectors, all converging on their section of the station. Time to choose, Mr. Walker, Verena extended her crystalline hand. Stay and face interrogation by various interested parties, or come with me and learn why you can create something that should be impossible for your species to even comprehend. Nathaniel looked at his bar, at the life he'd built over the years. Then he looked at his creation, still swirling with impossible potential, and made his decision. He grasped Verena's hand, her crystal skin cool against his. I hope you have something stronger than cocktails where we're going, he said as the Royal Guard moved to surround them. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. Verena's crystalline features shifted in what he was learning to recognize as a smile. Mr. Walker, you're about to discover that cocktails are merely the beginning of what you can create. The world dissolved in a flash of prismatic light, leaving behind an empty bar, a glowing blue drink, and a host of unanswered questions about what exactly Nathaniel Walker had stumbled upon in his quest to create the perfect cocktail. The crystalline chamber materialized around them in a cascade of prismatic light. Nathaniel's stomach lurched as his body adjusted to the quantum displacement. He found himself in what appeared to be a vast laboratory, though unlike any he'd ever seen. The walls themselves seemed alive with flowing patterns of light, and floating crystals of various sizes orbited workstations that defied Euclidean geometry. "Welcome to the Resonance Archives," Verena announced, her crystalline form now glowing with subtle internal light. "The heart of Lasarian scientific advancement, and a place no human has ever seen." Until now, a sharp voice cut through the air. A tall Lasarian emerged from behind a matrix of floating crystals, his form more angular than Verena's, edges sharp enough to seem almost threatening. "Ambassador, the Council demands an explanation for this breach of protocol." Chief Researcher Talix, Verena inclined her head slightly. "Mr. Walker's presence here is not a breach, but a necessity. Show him what we found in his genetic scan during transport." The hostile Lasarian's crystalline features shifted in what Nathaniel interpreted as a frown, but he waved a faceted hand. A holographic display materialized between them, showing what appeared to be a double helix of DNA, but with impossible structures woven through it. "Impossible," Talix muttered. "The quantum resonance patterns in his genetic structure, they're almost identical to the Forerunner samples," Verena finished. "Exactly. It seems our ancient benefactors left more than just ruins and technology behind. They left descendants." Nathaniel's head spun. "I'm sorry, but what exactly are you talking about? What's wrong with my DNA?" "Nothing is wrong," Verena assured him. "But it explains your unique ability to create quantum-stable molecular combinations. The beings we call Forerunners possessed this same gift. They could manipulate matter at its most fundamental level, creating substances that defied conventional physics." "Like my cocktails," Nathaniel whispered, understanding dawning. "Indeed. But they could do far more than create interesting beverages. They could reshape worlds, heal any injury, even manipulate time itself on a local scale." Verena's voice grew urgent. "And now, after 50,000 years, we've found their genetic legacy. In you." Before Nathaniel could process this revelation, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Talix rushed to a control interface, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Multiple quantum breaches detected. They followed your transportation signature." He turned accusingly toward Verena. "The Syndicate has found us." The walls of the chamber shimmered as dark shapes began to materialize. Humanoid figures in sleek black armor appeared, wielding weapons that crackled with dark energy. Leading them was a woman whose cybernetic enhancements gleamed dully in the crystal light. "Director Ravenna," Verena's voice carried a cold edge. "The Chimera Syndicate is not welcome in the archives." The cybernetically enhanced woman smiled, the expression never reaching her augmented eyes. "Come now, Ambassador. Did you really think we wouldn't notice the quantum signature of his drink? We've been searching for Forerunner genetic markers for decades. Though I must admit, finding them in a bartender is unexpected." "I'm standing right here," Nathaniel interjected, surprising himself with his own boldness. "And I'm not interested in whatever you're selling." Ravenna's smile widened. "Your interest is irrelevant. The Syndicate requires your genetic material to complete our research. Whether that material comes from a living donor or a corpse makes no difference to us." The armed figures raised their weapons. Nathaniel tensed, preparing for the worst, but Verena stepped forward, her crystalline form beginning to pulse with intense light. "Mr. Walker," she said calmly, "do you trust me? Considering the alternatives?" "Absolutely." "Then catch." She tossed him what appeared to be a small crystal. As his fingers closed around it, he felt a strange resonance, similar to what he experienced while creating his quantum cocktails. "Focus on that feeling," she instructed. "And remember, reality is just another form of molecular manipulation." The crystal in his hand began to hum, responding to his thoughts. Somehow, he knew exactly what to do. As Ravenna's forces opened fire, Nathaniel reached out with his consciousness, feeling the quantum structure of reality around him. Just like crafting his drinks, it was all about understanding the interaction of elements, the flow of energy, the balance of forces. The air itself seemed to crystallize around the energy bolts, transforming them into harmless light. Nathaniel staggered, shocked by both what he'd done and the surge of exhaustion that followed. Impossible, Ravenna breathed. The genetic markers shouldn't be active without proper conditioning. I believe, Verena said smoothly, you'll find many things you thought impossible are merely the beginning. She raised her hands, and the crystal walls of the chamber began to shift and flow like liquid. Nathaniel, I suggest you brace yourself. This next part might be slightly disorienting. The last thing Nathaniel saw before reality twisted around them was Ravenna's face contorting in fury. Then the world dissolved into prismatic light once more, leaving him with the unsettling certainty that his life as a simple bartender was well and truly over. They materialized in what appeared to be an ancient temple, its walls covered in crystalline growths that pulsed with faint luminescence. Nathaniel stumbled, still dizzy from their quantum leap, but Verena caught him with surprising strength. The crystal sanctuary, she explained, helping him steady himself. One of the last untouched Forerunner sites in known space. We should be safe here, at least temporarily. Safe enough for you to explain what's really going on? Nathaniel asked, studying the strange symbols etched into the temple walls. To his surprise, some of them seemed almost familiar, like half-remembered dreams. Verena's crystalline form shifted, creating patterns that Nathaniel was beginning to recognize as concern. The truth is, complicated. The Forerunners weren't just advanced aliens who vanished mysteriously. They were architects of life itself. They seeded countless worlds with their genetic material, creating species that could eventually unlock the quantum nature of reality. Species like the Lysarians, Nathaniel guessed. And apparently, some humans. She touched one of the wall crystals, causing it to project a complex molecular structure into the air. What you do with your cocktails, it's not chemistry or even quantum physics. It's something far more fundamental. You're actually rewriting the local laws of reality on a molecular level. Through drinks? Nathaniel couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. Through understanding. Verena corrected. The cocktails are just your mind's way of comprehending and channeling abilities it wasn't fully aware it had. The Forerunners believed that consciousness itself was the key to manipulating quantum reality. Before Nathaniel could respond, a sharp crack echoed through the temple. One of the wall crystals had split, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Verena rushed toward it, her form brightening with excitement. Impossible, this is a resonance chamber. We thought they were all destroyed. She turned to Nathaniel, her crystalline features animated. This is where the Forerunners conducted their most important experiments in quantum manipulation. Nathaniel approached the chamber cautiously. Inside, a complex array of crystals hung suspended in mid-air, arranged in patterns that made his head hurt to look at directly. Yet somehow, he understood their purpose. It's a recipe, he whispered, surprising himself. But not for drinks. It's bigger than that. What do you mean? Verena asked sharply. Before he could answer, a familiar voice echoed through the temple. It's a formula for rewriting the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Director Ravenna stepped from the shadows, her cybernetic implants glowing ominously. Thank you for leading us here. Dozens of syndicate troops shimmered into existence around them, weapons raised. Ravenna smiled coldly. Did you really think we couldn't track a quantum displacement of that magnitude? How did you bypass the temple's defenses? Verena demanded. Ravenna held up a small crystal that pulsed with sickly light. Amazing what you can accomplish with a sample of Forerunner DNA, even a degraded one. Though I must admit, finding a pure genetic descendant like Mr. Walker here was beyond our wildest hopes. You've been experimenting with Forerunner DNA, Nathaniel realized, horror dawning. That's what the Syndicate really is, you're trying to force evolution, to create your own quantum-manipulating beings. Very good, Ravenna praised mockingly. But our attempts have been imperfect. Unstable. Your genetic structure could change that. She gestured to her troops. Take them both. The ambassador's crystalline biology might provide insights as well. But Nathaniel wasn't listening anymore. The longer he stood in the resonance chamber, the more he could feel something awakening inside him. The quantum crystal Verena had given him hummed in his pocket, resonating with the chamber's ancient energies. Just like crafting his signature drinks, he could sense the underlying patterns, the flow of possibilities. Verena, he whispered, remember how you said consciousness was the key to quantum manipulation? She glanced at him, then at the crystal arrays, understanding dawning in her faceted eyes. You can't possibly, the energy requirements alone. Energy is just another form of consciousness, Nathaniel said, remembering patterns he didn't know he knew. He reached out, not with his hands but with his mind, feeling the quantum structure of reality around them. And I think I finally understand the recipe. The crystal arrays began to spin, reality itself seeming to bend around them. Ravenna's troops opened fire, but their energy bolts curved away, caught in the growing quantum distortion. Stop him! Ravenna screamed, raising her own weapon. But it was too late. The last thing Nathaniel saw before the quantum cascade reached critical mass was Verena's crystalline form beginning to resonate with his own energy signature, their consciousness somehow aligning at the most fundamental level. Then everything dissolved into pure possibility, and the temple vanished in a flash of impossible light. Consciousness returned to Nathaniel in waves of crystalline clarity. He found himself lying on a floor that seemed to be made of pure light, in a vast chamber that defied conventional geometry. Above him, what appeared to be galaxies swirled in miniature, their light casting ever-changing patterns across the impossible architecture. Welcome to the interface, Verena's voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple directions at once. He turned to find her crystalline form had changed, she now appeared to be partially translucent, with streams of quantum energy flowing through her crystalline structure. What is this place? Nathaniel asked, realizing his own voice carried the same multidimensional quality. And what's happened to us? This is where the physical and quantum realms intersect, she explained, helping him to his feet. When you activated the resonance chamber, you didn't just teleport us, you shifted us partially out of conventional reality. We're experiencing multiple quantum states simultaneously. Nathaniel looked down at his hands, noticing for the first time that they seemed to blur at the edges, as if he existed in several places at once. Like my cocktails, multiple states of existence overlapping. Exactly. Though this is on a far grander scale. Verena moved closer, her crystalline form resonating with his own quantum state. You've done something the Forerunners themselves rarely achieved, conscious quantum manipulation on a macro scale. Before Nathaniel could respond, the space around them shimmered, and new figures appeared. They looked like living constellations in vaguely humanoid form, their bodies composed of interconnected points of light. The interface has guardians, one of the figures said, its voice carrying harmonics that made Nathaniel's newly quantum-sensitive consciousness vibrate. We are the observers, those who monitor the boundaries between states of reality. The Syndicate, Nathaniel started, but the observer cut him off with a gesture that left trails of light in the air. The Chimera Syndicate's crude attempts at quantum manipulation have already drawn our attention. But you. The figure turned its stellar gaze to Nathaniel. You represent something far more significant. A true bridge, capable of conscious quantum manipulation without technological assistance. A bridge to what? Nathaniel asked, though part of him already knew the answer. To us, Verena whispered. To the quantum realm where the Forerunners now exist. They didn't vanish, they evolved beyond conventional reality. And now the pattern repeats, another observer intoned. But the Syndicate seeks to force this evolution, to tear open the barriers between realms. Their latest attempt draws near. The space around them shifted, showing them a massive facility hidden in an asteroid field. Inside, Nathaniel could see hundreds of tanks filled with swirling blue liquid that looked disturbingly similar to his quantum cocktails. They're using my formula, he realized with horror. They must have analyzed the residue from the drinks I served at the bar. They're trying to mass-produce it. But without true understanding of quantum resonance, the result will be catastrophic. Verina's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. They'll create a cascade reaction that could collapse the barriers between realms entirely. Which is why we have brought you here, the first observer stated. The Syndicate's facility is shielded against our direct intervention. But you, as a bridge, can act in both realms simultaneously. You want me to stop them, Nathaniel said. It wasn't a question. We want you to understand what you truly are, the observer corrected. The choice of how to use that understanding must be your own. Verina moved closer to Nathaniel, her crystalline hand taking his quantum-blurred one. I know that look, she said. You've already decided, haven't you? Nathaniel nodded, feeling the quantum energies flowing between them. I spent years perfecting my cocktails, learning how different elements interact, how to create perfect harmony between opposing forces. This isn't so different, just on a bigger scale. Much bigger, Verina agreed. And this time, failure means more than just an unsatisfied customer. Then I guess we'd better not fail. Nathaniel turned to the observers. I'll need to understand exactly how the Forerunners manipulated quantum reality. And he squeezed Verina's hand, feeling their quantum signatures harmonize. I'll need your help. Your crystalline nature allows you to exist partially in the quantum realm already. Together, we might be able to. A violent shudder ran through the interface, the galactic patterns above them distorting. The Syndicate begins their attempt, an observer announced. Their actions destabilize the quantum barriers even now. Then teach me, Nathaniel demanded. Quickly. The observers moved to surround them, their constellation forms creating a circle of living light. We will show you the truth of what you are, they said in unison. But be warned, once you fully awaken to your quantum nature, there can be no return to your former existence. Nathaniel looked at Verina, saw his own determination reflected in her crystalline features. Sometimes, he said, the most complex cocktails are the ones worth waiting for. The observers began to pulse with energy, and the interface around them transformed into a cascade of quantum information. As knowledge flooded into him, Nathaniel held tight to Verina's hand, their combined consciousness preparing to face whatever reality, or realities, awaited them. The Syndicate's facility blazed with quantum fire as Nathaniel and Verina materialized in its heart. Their partially quantum forms cast prismatic shadows across the sterile laboratory walls. Dozens of massive tanks filled with swirling blue liquid surrounded them, each one a potential catalyst for dimensional collapse. Beautiful, isn't it? Director Ravenna's voice carried across the chamber. She stood on an elevated platform, her cybernetic implants now glowing with the same otherworldly energy as the tanks. We reverse-engineered your quantum cocktail formula. Combined with Forerunner DNA samples, it's allowing us to force evolution itself. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Nathaniel called out, feeling the dangerous instability in the quantum fields around them. This isn't about forcing evolution, it's about harmony between states of existence. Harmony? Ravenna laughed harshly. Look at what your precious harmony has given us, centuries of slow, careful development while the Forerunners exist in a higher state of being. We're done waiting. She pressed a sequence of commands into a console. The tanks began to pulse in unison, their contents starting to boil with quantum energy. Nathaniel could feel reality itself beginning to strain around them. Nathaniel, Verina's crystalline form resonated with urgency. The quantum cascade is beginning. If those tanks reach critical resonance. I know. He reached out with his quantum-enhanced senses, feeling the chaotic energies building. The barriers between realms will shatter. Billions will die in the collapse. Then they'll die in the name of progress, Ravenna declared. Her cybernetics sparked as she interfaced directly with the facility's systems. Humanity deserves to ascend, whatever the cost. That's where you're wrong, Nathaniel said quietly. What humanity deserves is a chance to grow, to understand, to find its own path, just like I did through my bartending. He reached out, not with his hands but with his consciousness, touching the quantum signature of each tank. Just like crafting his signature drinks, it was all about understanding the interaction of elements, the flow of energy, the perfect balance of forces. Verina, I need your help, he said. Your crystalline nature can help stabilize the quantum fields while I work. She moved closer, her form beginning to pulse in harmony with his. Whatever you need. How touching, Ravenna sneered. But you're too late. The reaction has already begun. She was right, the quantum energies were reaching critical levels. But Nathaniel wasn't trying to stop the reaction. Instead, he began to guide it, using everything the observers had taught him about quantum manipulation. The Forerunners didn't abandon their physical forms, he said, his voice carrying harmonic overtones as he worked. They transformed them, creating a perfect bridge between states of existence. But it only worked because they understood the fundamental truth. Which is? Ravenna demanded, her cybernetics crackling as she tried to counter his manipulations. That ascension isn't about force, Verina answered, her crystalline form now glowing brilliantly as she helped Nathaniel shape the quantum fields. It's about understanding. About finding the perfect blend of elements that allows transformation without destruction. The tanks began to resonate with a new frequency as Nathaniel applied the same principles he'd used in his cocktails: balance, harmony, the perfect mixture of opposing forces. The chaotic quantum energies slowly stabilized, forming patterns that reminded him of the interface's galactic swirls. No! Ravenna screamed. You're ruining everything. She slammed her augmented hand down on the console, initiating an overload sequence. But it was too late. The quantum reaction had already been transformed. Instead of tearing reality apart, it created a stable quantum matrix throughout the facility. The barriers between realms remained intact, but became permeable in a controlled way. Ravenna staggered as the quantum energies interfaced with her cybernetics. What have you done? Created a bridge, Nathaniel explained, maintaining the delicate quantum balance with Verina's help. Not a forced evolution, but a doorway for those who are ready to understand higher states of existence. Just like my cocktails helped people experience new states of consciousness, but only if they were willing to try. The observers began to materialize around them, their constellation forms more visible now in the stabilized quantum field. The bridge is established, they announced. The pattern continues, but now in harmony rather than chaos. Ravenna fell to her knees, her cybernetics sparking. I only wanted to understand. Understanding comes with time, Verina said gently. And with the willingness to learn rather than force. Nathaniel felt the quantum energies settling into a stable pattern, creating a permanent but controlled connection between realms. The observers moved to secure Ravenna and contain the syndicate's research. So what happens now? He asked, turning to Verina. Their quantum forms still resonated in harmony, creating patterns of light that danced between them. Now? She moved closer, her crystalline features softening. Now we have all of reality to explore. Though her form shifted in what he now recognized as amusement, I wouldn't mind stopping for a drink first. Nathaniel laughed, the sound creating ripples in the quantum field around them. I think I can manage that. Though I should warn you, after all this, my cocktails might be a bit more interesting than before. I'm counting on it, she replied, taking his hand. Their forms began to shift between states, physical and quantum, as they prepared to explore whatever realities awaited them. The observers watched them depart, their constellation forms twinkling with something that might have been approval. In the end, it wasn't force or fear that had opened the door to higher existence, it was understanding, patience, and the perfect blend of elements. Just like the best cocktails, and just like the best kinds of love.